here we are, live for our 13th episode of Office Hours. We're here with GosuCoder. We're here with Dan and Sa from Roo Code, as well as M, one of our community contributors. Welcome, and I guess today we've got some interesting things that went on. Yesterday we had OpenRouter, our beloved OpenRouter, release another stealth model, which was sort of cool at first. It seemed to come out the gate swinging, and then once you actually got it to do some heavy lifting, it did a little tripping and falling on its face. So maybe they'll fix that. I'm not sure. Whoever is behind that model, some say OpenAI, others say Amazon. Those seem to be the two in the running. But Adam, have you had a chance to give it a try?
I have, and for coding, I don't think it's that great. I'd be curious if you guys are finding the same thing.
I think you goosed off with it the most.
It's it comes out the gate pretty well, and then very, very quickly likes to ignore everything you've said and do whatever it wants.
So it's my wife. Oh, sorry.
Yep, that's a really good. Cause my first impression was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I will say I traditionally do not like reasoning models, the very verbose models when I'm doing kind of surgical coding. I like it for planning, but then I basically had to keep telling it to use tool calls. So rather than it just doing it, I had to keep kind of forcing it to do it. It was a little unfortunate. I'm really curious who made this model. So I'm wondering, some people predict an OpenAI. I don't think it's an OpenAI model, to be honest.
No, why not?
I think it's very unlikely that this is an OpenAI model. I'm betting it's some sort of a Chinese model, just based on the way it works. So I'd be curious, do you guys have any predictions on whose model you think this is? I don't think it's Gemini, and I don't think it's OpenAI this time.
So then maybe Meta's in the running, or a DeepSeek.
Meta, DeepSeek, one of those I think is where I'm at. Meta would surprise me, but maybe it wouldn't. I don't know.
I don't think it's DeepSeek.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think it's DeepSeek. It might be if it is a smaller model than V3, because V3 is actually pretty smart. It's a pretty smart model. I had trouble with this model trying to figure out to which remote to push a change. I was telling it that's not the correct remote, and it kept going at it. Like it gets stuck on simple instructions. It seems it might be. Yep. People are saying that it's Amazon. I have never used an Amazon model, so I doubt. Well, I don't know if it is or not. Might be.
Oh, that's a good guess, actually.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, they have trained on, I would say, DeepSeek or Quen's data, because I'm noticing 100%. That sometimes it outputs thinking tags, and other times not, and it doesn't really have a pattern to it. It's just random.
Yep.
Huh. So it does output thinking tags sometimes. Interesting.
Yeah. Rarely. I got them like once out of all the time I used it, but it's super rare. I don't know. Did you get it more than that, M? Were you getting
trigger? Give it a trigger word.
No, it like every couple requests.
Interesting.
Huh? Is that a run-on chat, or is that with new chats?
Throughout an entire chat, it happens about half the time, but no correlation as to what the input prompt was.
Yeah.
Or its past response. Like it would do it in the middle of a tool calling chain.
Yeah.
Going through mine now, too, to see. I guess it did happen more times than I thought, to be honest.
Yeah?
It is a very verbose model, though. Which isn't always a bad thing, but it is.
It isn't always, just when it is. I see. Yeah.
No, I'm saying it's not always a bad thing when they're verbose, but this one is, like, very verbose. Something, like, I don't know, there's a very simple thing I had to do, and it sent up. Basically, the token usage was just through the roof. It's like 2 million tokens. Context window started filling up pretty quick. It is just a very token. It's a token hog.
Okay, so no closer are we to the mystery of who made that model. I guess what else, Adam? We had another topic we were going to talk about.
Yeah. What else?
Besides
What else
questions.
Yeah. What else is new to all you guys? Like, be curious if there's anything on anybody else's mind for like news. I feel like
Gemini CLI.
Gemini CLI is a big one, and getting that pulled out, that was kind of interesting.
Well, we had reached out to them.
Another model, though.
Pardon me?
XAI is rumored to launch another model, though.
Interesting. Well, we know that, back a second, going to whose model this is, we know that XAI was testing their model through OpenRouter and Klein. That Grok model, 100% was through OpenRouter. And so maybe this is just another experiment there. They've probably forged a bit of a relationship. So I think that's the first time I've heard that guess. I mean, this would be very disappointing if this was their new model. I mean, it's a competent and capable model, just not when you're putting it up against what we've got at the top of the list right now. You know, it's 6 months ago. Yeah, it's okay, but this is not a soda model.
It's a really good point. The window keeps moving, so a lot of times, like what we're saying is like not good today would have been state of the art. I don't know, like you said, 6 months ago. Unfortunately, like one example I was using it in Roo Code. I wanted it to change something very minor. It wouldn't do the tool calls, and I got it to do it, and it just literally deleted all the code in my file and added the one function in that it was supposed to write. And I'm like, that's kind of interesting. So it is.
Listen, it's just a little, what's the word? Vindictive?
Yeah, it was just kind of mean. Yeah. So you cannot
here.
You can't. Yeah. It was like the merge was just all red, so my file was just that one function, and they were like, that's kind of cool.
So then you just go and restore all that other stuff, and here.
Yep. Just manual merge.
Merge this.
It would make a little bit of sense to be a Grok model, because they are set to launch on the 4th of July, I believe was said by Elon himself. But
so we can count on it not happening. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, that's what I was thinking. They may roll it back a few months if this training run didn't go well, and they're just going to retrain off of the prompts we're providing them.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's
There's
worth
a
something.
roaming around of console from XAI, and it shows Grok 4 now available. Now it's 131K context window.
I mean, I'm really excited to see Grok put something out that can go neck to neck with some of the models we use every day. But I am a bit concerned about their size of context, because I know context isn't king. You don't need to have the million context to make things happen. But 130,000, 140,000 is pretty small. You got to really change your workflow.
Yeah.
I mean, you've done with local stuff, right, Adam?
Oh yeah, I can do 100,000 with local stuff, reworking the system prompt, and then you just can't do things that span multiple files very much. You have to like, all right, I'm going to do this particular thing in this file, and then.
So I guess an orchestrator could really do the trick if you could keep it sort of in silos where each task really broke down. So instead of the orchestrator trying to break it down by size of task in terms of context, just basically going, look, you're doing one major change per subtask, and then send it out, do it, come back. That could work.
Yeah, Orchestrators. If back to that crazy experiment I did with the micromanager kind of setup, where I had my intern. That was a local model I was running at the time, and I would use it for very like small context type changes, and the orchestrator would decide when to send something to the intern. I think that's a perfect example of how to use that. It is tricky though, because 130K is just so low, and even and $1 million I think is too much. I don't know if you guys agree, but like I feel like I've stress tested them up to about 500 to 600,000 context window, and things start going off the rails a bit in most models when you get up that high. So
I find the $1 million models to be quite effective when I feed them a huge chunk of context up front. So, for example, when we're doing translating files, doing 17 or 20 reads at once, boom, filling it up, and then doing 1 or 2 writes with concurrent write. It does. It works pretty smoothly. It might have to try the concurrent write several times, but big deal. It's still only doing like 3 or 4 turns to do all of the translations instead of having to do like 17 or 20 turns, which a million context model at 17 or 20 turns, my experience is that it starts to biff.
Yep. I think that summarizes pretty well kind of what I run into. It works good until it doesn't, and then once it doesn't, it's hard to get it back on track. What context window are you hitting when you do that translation, out of curiosity? Because I think that's something we do too, is AI for translation is amazing.
Well, that one only I think about 300,000, but when I when I get the Discord bot going and I dump it full of context, and I'm trying to find a needle in a haystack, some sort of event that happened, and I just dump it a whole bunch of Discord conversations, it actually does okay with that.
Cool. That's awesome.
So again, dumping it a bunch of stuff up front, and I mean, I think the way we go about developing is largely where we sort of go, okay, here's our problem. Okay, read one file, do a search, compress it, yada, 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 architect, code. But what if you were able to just take a good chunk of like the area where you're working on, that entire code base, and just dump it and tell it what to do? I've not tried that with Gemini. I wonder if it would perform fairly well, and basically just don't try to do like a 20-turn thing. Just give it a fairly reasonable task up front and give it all the files.
In that context, it does work pretty well. I found that 2.5 Pro, my best use case with it is dumping it an entire LLMs.txt of a documentation, and then using that to create a library for me to use. I found it much better than using the public libraries because it seems to do it almost one shot, but it will have a couple little areas that the libraries also have that it will fix in the next turn once you ask it, hey, if there's any bugs or anything that could happen, that are edge cases, fix it before it happens. And it will go through and catch all the little minor things.
Basically, give it your 20,000 system prompt, 780,000 worth of code base or documentation, and then do your ask, and you got 200,000 to finish the job.
Yeah. With OpenRouter's LLM.txt, it's around 100,000 tokens, I believe. And it's been able to deal with it perfectly fine, outputting an almost perfect result, one shot.
Interesting. Okay, do we have any questions going on, Dan, in the lobby here?
We don't have that many, but...
Got 63 people in here, that's a good number.
Someone asked about Gemini CLI, if it's coming back.
Gemini CLI, is it coming back? That's a great question. Okay, let me just think. No, just kidding. It quite likely is. We are just working with Google in a way to... They gave away these free calls, and when we tried to implement it as just a straight CLI tool where we just were wrapped around it, it didn't have the ability that Anthropic's Claude Code did, where you can prompt it to output JSON and, override the system prompt. And so it didn't make sense to feed our system prompt in on top of their system prompt. That would very much confuse things. So we were like, making a wrapper isn't such a bad thing, It's then we saw that Klein, one of their community contributors, just took the auth mechanism, extracted it, and utilized it to make calls directly to the same API endpoint. And turns out, I guess they didn't expect that. It seems like a pretty obvious outcome once you think about it. But anyways, so we basically implemented a hacky solution, and they were nice. They're good to us. We chat back and forth, but they asked us to roll it back because it wasn't in the spirit of what that was intended for. And we want to remain on good terms with them. They didn't threaten us, none of that garbage. But when someone like Google asks, we appreciate what they do for the community. They do a lot of open source stuff. People can hate them, think they're evil, but they still contribute a lot, and they have some pretty great models. So, we took their ask seriously.
Right.
I can't tell you if it's going to happen soon or not.
And I mean, they're so active.
Days. Go ahead.
Yeah, they're so actively developing right now. I've actually been talking to people at Google too about some stuff.
Okay.
They're just so actively developing. That'll be interesting to see kind of how that thing advances over time. I can't imagine them not rolling out stuff that allows Roo Code to do that in the future. But I am kind of wondering about the auth side of it, especially, like I'd be curious what you guys' thoughts are on this. So I think the challenge that I have in my head a little bit is like if Google in their Ultra plan, I think it's like what $250 a month or something. If they gave a bunch of credits to use in the CLI, I wonder, or in their coding tool, I wonder if they'd be okay long term with other coding tools using their command line interface just as an API call. So I'm really wondering kind of like what stance they're going to take on that long term. It sounds like they're trying to play nice from your perspective, but
well, I think they wanted to test their CLI tool and they wanted to get some definite media coverage for the free calls, and their free calls weren't nothing. They come across as a little more than they are. You think 1,000 calls, I'm getting 1,000 calls of Pro. You're not. You got to flip back and forth between Flash, which if juggled correctly in their CLI environment, it might actually do okay. I haven't tested it. There's so much to test every day. I'll be honest, I don't spend that many hours testing all of them. I stick to the core ones. Anyways, I think they wanted to get some attention, and they put out a solid open source tool. And they weren't trying to poke the bear, and they weren't trying to upset people by saying don't do this at all. I think that they will provide some way that we can gain access to those so-called free calls as well, because it really does, for people that aren't used to Gemini being at the forefront, it gives them a chance to try out Gemini solidly. And if you're doing much work, those 1,000 calls don't last that long. You'll be buying some more soon. So, yeah, that's my take on it.
Yeah.
And someone is asking if it's the same case with the VS Code LM API provider from Microsoft. I think they're okay with it because, well, they haven't said anything, and they're, as you mentioned, setting pretty high limits to what you can use. It's 300 premium requests for now, I think. And they also do some other post-processing stuff. I don't know what they do, but sometimes Roo doesn't perform as well with it. Maybe because they are truncating the system prompt or something like that.
Yeah. I haven't heard a lot of chatter about LM, the VS Code LM provider since Claude Code has allowed this.
Yeah.
People seem to just be biting the bullet on the either $20 a month with the Pro subscription. You can, if you're a hobbyist or you can't afford too much, the $20 a month still gets you a fair bit. Carefully manage your prompts, and then do some manual work in between. You got to wait another 5-6 hours. If you go to the 100 model, it's pretty easy if you're not running too many instances to run with that for the day without too much interference. So I think that Claude has really changed we're not hearing support requests constantly for the LM Studio or the VS Code LM provider. Just they've vanished almost.
Yeah, and it's honestly, before, I don't know if you guys are in the same boat, but you could blow $100 a day on API request coding. So now the fact that you can almost get nearly unlimited for $100 a month is pretty incredible.
Yeah, it is pretty incredible. I've heard some people say that they might crack down on the way we're integrating, but I'm not sure. From what I can see, what we're doing falls within what they intended. They intended to give tools the ability to use this, right? I mean, we're replacing the system prompt through no nefarious or sort of hacky means. We're doing it with mechanisms they gave us. And, we're not circumventing anything. We're working with the framework they gave us. So,
Yeah.
And I went through the TOS. I don't see anything in there that anybody's doing that goes against that. You know, you guys and Klein and those folks. Unless they change that, I don't. Which they could. I think it's okay.
Cool. Well, here I've got a side quest. I'm going to share my screen there. I have this window. We've got the Cypher Alpha. Let's give Orchestrator a task. Got any ideas? This is a completely naked environment with a node get ignore setup.
So someone is asking, just to quickly answer, if you can use Cloud Pro subscription. Yes, you can use it with the Cloud Code provider on Roo. So you can use that to, if you want to use your subscription through Roo, you can use it with the Cloud Code provider.
Absolutely.
And just make sure you're auth in the CLI before setting it up.
Yeah, if you don't do it, and when I initially set up my Claude Code, I had it set up with my API key before they had the subscription. And when I first went to use it, I was actually paying for API calls. So you don't want to do that by accident. Okay, here I asked it to make me a Flappy Bird's knockoff. So we'll see what happens. Nobody came up with something.
So far, the response seems quite fast. The tokens per second, it seems they're quite fast with that. Do you think it could prove as a good model for something like condensing?
Maybe. Oh, hey, Gosu, have you made your Claude.md public? That's a question we just had.
I have not yet. Nope. I would say that's typically project specific most of the time, the Claude.md. So I don't know how much benefit that would make making it public, but I do have custom slash commands that I use quite a lot in Claude Code that are very, very handy.
Have you tried that Claude Flow?
Briefly, there's a new thing that everybody's asking me to try called Claudia, which is very interesting as well.
Well, Claude Flow is by the guy that did the Spark framework, which the Spark framework as a whole, I had a hard time getting it to orchestrate all together, but the individual modes were actually seemed to be quite well written. We included some of them in our mode marketplace. So
that's cool.
Yeah. And so he's working towards something. It is definitely for the power user or the tinkerer. It's not a plug and play from my experience just yet. But I spoke with someone from the Agentics Foundation where Ruv, he founded that. I spoke with someone from the Agentics Foundation yesterday, and he's working on that pretty aggressively, and they're getting a great response. So, okay, so it thinks it's done. Flappy Birds.
We look at the script.js file. That seemed really quick. I'm curious to see what they put in there. Okay, so
not
generates
very
code,
much,
but it is not much. You're right.
Doesn't seem to be nonsense though.
Yeah, it's not nonsense, which is good. So most of my tests with it, to be totally honest, were in existing code bases where I had a lot of the issues. So I'm very curious what this is going to do.
Yeah, me too.
Well,
never used it to create a new thing, new project.
Yeah, I've got a blank white screen. Let's share multiple screens.
That checks out for what I was seeing.
Okay. Add this window. Let's see. Okay.
What's your is there anything in the console? Like, is it trying to initialize something? Like that it made up like a library or something?
Uncaught error, read properties, null, get context, read and get. Yeah.
Well, at least it's trying to do something, right?
That's what I was thinking.
Well, do we try to fix it, or do I just tell it to take another strategy?
Yeah, copy paste the error in there. Yeah, that's what I do. See what it does.
Okay.
It's interesting. The one thing that I found also interesting with Gemini CLI is I don't know if you guys went through their system prompt. You guys probably did. But how, if you don't specify frameworks and things for it, how it kind of like defaults to certain ones. And I wonder, like, over time, how much that's going to impact the growth or the use of certain like web frameworks. As more and more people just, they don't care about the technology. They're just like, hey, go make me a Flappy Bird clone.
Okay, where is his? This is the guy that makes it, and I just want to find his. How do I find Claude or Claude Flow here? He did not choose a name that was good for the search engine. So, Claude Flow is a orchestration framework to use Claude code. Here we go.
Cool, we got a link in the chat too. Cool. Someone beat you.
Yeah, I just opened it. So it hasn't seen a lot of work in 2 weeks, it seems. It uses the Spark, the Spark framework. It's got a bunch of different modes, and it's complicated to set up. So it's not for the faint of heart. If you have time, play around with it. I might try that this afternoon, but
yeah, it looks cool.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. What did we get now? Let's see if it did anything. Yoink. No, nothing. Yeah. Okay, so no, absolutely did not make Flappy Birds. So I'm gonna maybe just say make Flappy Birds again. This time code mode. Go ahead.
So while you're doing this, what do you guys think models like this are actually? Let's say they can't code. I've been thinking about this. Doing math problems doesn't make sense. I mean, maybe some sort of like research analysis or something. What do you think models like this are actually going to be used for long term?
Well, I wonder if
like
feeding it a bunch of context, if it will actually hold it well. If I feed it like 800,000 worth of stuff and ask a question, can it parse through it reasonably well and say, here's what people were talking about on the 5th of July? Or
so what I think they're doing, like the companies that make these type of models, they're no, you can tell they're not a code model. I think they're trying to mainly create a model that's small, but also, capable to make it an assistant of some kind. So maybe a assistant for mobile phones, Copilot, Windows Copilot type. Maybe. I think that's the main. For what I've seen, I think that's the main application for models like this. I don't know what you guys think about it.
Interesting. I haven't tested it for that. Go ahead.
Looking at the speed of the responses, it seems like they're trying to create an alternative for something like Gemini Flash, because it's fast and so is Gemini. And from what I can understand, looking at the pricing of Gemini, it seems like they're trying to target smaller enterprises which want to integrate AI with their applications and sorts. So I think that is the target market. Small software companies that aren't into AI much, but just want to jump into this AI hype train.
Yeah, I could totally see that. I'd be so curious what kind of volume Gemini Flash gets and like what their workload is. Because I have to imagine the majority of volume is maybe I'm overestimating this. I probably am off. But I have to imagine the most of the revenue anyway for model like these AI models got to be coming from engineering, like coding in general. So I'm very curious how that's going to grow over time.
So I think you're right about the revenue part. That's the main, I guess, when you try to use them directly API, that's the main source of income. But
for sure,
also, I think the main usage of these models are, for example, if you have an Android phone, you can use Gemini as an assistant. Everyone has a phone. So I guess that's the main, it's not the main source of income, but it's the main usage. Or the most usage that they get is from normal people just using the model as an assistant in their phone. Like, I'm just trying to figure out how many people actually use these models for coding. Probably not much compared to the people that just use it as an assistant on their phone, just testing it out, trying to switch their Spotify song. I don't know. Seems like more people will use that for them for
No,
that
I agree.
purpose.
I think what they're trying to do here is to integrate all these AI things in everyday life. And for these normal day tasks, normal day chores, they'll probably need a smaller and a cheaper model. I think that
Yep,
is
I
what
think
they're
that makes sense.
targeting. Of course.
Yep,
Yeah.
that makes total sense. You know, it's
Yeah,
funny.
it's
My
just
wife,
me speculating.
my
Oh, sorry,
wife's
go
been
ahead.
like, she always like laughs at me because I always talking about AI and all that stuff. And I was talking to her, I'm like, so you don't use AI for any? She's a nurse, and I saw her Google something, and she was reading the AI summary. I'm like, you do know you are using AI by going off. She's like, I had no idea that was AI. So I think what's going to happen,
man.
to your point, is more and more people are just going to use it, and they're not even going to know it's actually AI when people say it's AI. So
Yeah,
my wife is an
absolutely.
AI user, but she literally had no idea she was using it for months.
Yeah, I think I
And
saw some kind of news somewhere recently where people were surprised that their train announcer was actually in AI. So that's what I'm talking about, everyday
Yep.
things in your
yeah,
life.
yeah, and if you think about it, how many people are Googling right now? Like, the main use of Gemini models, I assume it's just people using Google to search for stuff, right? And for OpenAI, it's ChatGPT. For, maybe in the future for Siri and on Apple devices is going to be the main use of Anthropic models if they include that. So we are in a bubble of coders that use AI. Probably the most use they see is just normal people searching
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Yeah.
Hey, look at that. We have Matt just showed up silently. How's it going, Matt?
Matt?
Anyone listening? This is our lead dev. This is the guy behind the co-founder of Roo Code.
Good to see you, man.
Yeah, good to see you. Good to have you on the pod.
Like, yeah. Did you get Flappy Bird working? That's a big question.
No, it's not doing much. It really
Yeah.
isn't.
Isn't there an MCP that can read the errors and feed them back in?
Yes.
It's still
Yeah, it
nobody
is.
found a good.
Okay, we have Flappy Birds, guys. It's just I can't get by this first obstacle.
Good. Think in a different dimension there.
To win.
Go 3D.
I mean, that's something though.
That
At
is,
least.
yeah.
Crappy bird.
Flappy. That looks more like Flappy Blocks. No space.
I think Gemini Flash does a better job than this.
Yes,
Probably.
yeah, definitely does. Gemini Flash is actually a solid coder. Especially the new updated version, 2.5, it's pretty dang solid.
Yeah.
Okay, so for those watching the podcast, here we go. I can do it. I can't even get up. Okay. Yeah, it's not working. Okay, well,
Yeah.
I told it that looked more like Flappy Blocks.
This is summarizes my coding experience with this model. And what's sad is like some of the other like mystery models were so good.
Yes.
Like Optimus Alpha, man, that model, I loved it. It's so good. And so I was excited about this and very disappointed very quickly, unfortunately.
Okay, so
Yeah,
we're gonna.
for sure. Like the first Quasar Alpha
Quasar,
was so
yep.
good.
Very good.
Yes.
Okay, so let's try Gemini Flash. Same thing.
So someone was asking earlier about Codebase indexing. They were asking about if you can read comments or markdown files. It depends on what language you're using, what language is your project. It can read some comments of. I know that it can read JavaScript and TypeScript comments. It currently cannot read markdown files, but we'll be adding that soon, so it can also read documentation. Hopefully.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. like, I don't know if people pay that close attention to the Roo Code repo, but we've been moving more and more towards a mono repo to have the website. And I think we mean to put the documentation in there as well.
I would make it a little easier. I would appreciate
Yeah, it'd just be really cool to combine all this stuff so the model can also easily read the docs and update the docs when you make changes and things like that. And I think it just comes down to sequencing of releases and stuff, which is maybe the pain point we're feeling. But yeah, is everybody going mono repo these days? Or like, I don't know, it just seems like so much easier than trying to load all your services and stuff into the LLM. Or am I on an island there?
I mean, I would love to, because the project I work on for my day job, like we're across 4 different repos, and context between them is just non-existent currently. It's all in my head and kind of how I communicate. I've definitely thought about turning it into a mono repo with different deployment pipelines.
Yeah, we've been doing. I think for the most part, it's been pretty good. So yeah, I'd recommend it. But I don't know. It seems like companies that get started these days are all going to do mono repos, and then the companies started in the before times, like I don't know, either got to migrate or I don't even know the right way. Like I keep trying to open Roo from like a parent directory of all the different repos, but maybe it's just the way I do it. Like I have like 5 different copies of Roo cloned and stuff, and like the Codebase indexing, like comparing what I have in Roo Code 3 versus Roo Code 1. It seems like it must be a better way than my setup.
Yeah,
I mean, I love my work trees. I've got 10 work trees for Roo now.
work trees are awesome. I wasn't using them. I was doing the cloned repos for a while, and then somebody mentioned work trees to me. That has been a game changer. It's so good.
I actually built a mode called Work Tree Manager that I've been playing with. That
Nice.
basically, when I'm done working with something, I just flip it to Work Tree Manager, and it uses Flash. And I just say reset this work tree, and it gets it all back to how I want it, synced with the main. Beautiful. Life is good.
That's awesome. I was going to ask if anyone actually knew the commands for work trees. I can never remember them, and that's what gets in the way of me using them. Can you share your? Yeah, I'll put it at the top of the marketplace.
Remember how?
Put it in marketplace.
I've got to. I did flatten it. I just need to remove the. Right now, it sort of has like my username in it, and
it works on your computer. Okay.
Yeah. So I got to make it more generic. But okay, so we have Flappy Birds going. Let's see what happened. Okay, let's refresh this. Oh, it worked.
Yeah, that looks winnable.
There we go. That's Flash, right?
What?
2.5 Flash, yeah.
I made
Flash
it
it's a very competent model.
It's the same colors, I think. Does anyone remember the original? Anyone old enough to remember when Flappy Bird came out, the original one? So very similar to that.
Yep. Green pipes for sure. Flappy Bird was yellow, I think.
Yeah.
Dang, that's sad. I hate that I'm not old enough to remember that.
Okay.
That's the question about these games. I make a lot of these games. Like my 8-year-old daughter in particular is pretty into like the vibe coding games. Like how do you make it look like a bird? Like where do you get like a bird from? Or like is there some MCP to find like pixel art game characters or something?
I'm confident. Go ahead.
I've been using AI to generate images for me, removing the background and dropping them in and just telling it that's my bird. Or things like that. I haven't done Flappy Bird in particular.
Also, I think Cloud models are pretty good at SVG, right? They're decent at generating SVG images, vectors. Maybe that could work as well.
I wonder
if yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, let's see what happens here. I'm very curious what Claude or Gemini 2.5 Flash can do. I didn't think about the SVG creation.
Here, let's see what it does.
I've struggled a lot with the SVG creation or using AIs. Maybe it depends upon the asset, right?
Okay,
there's Flappy Bird.
There we go. I want it to look like that. Okay, let's see if that works. No. Did I launch it? Probably got to relaunch it.
Oh, that's bird-like.
You have
a closer.
Use more tokens for that bird.
Make it look more like this, please. Okay. I gave it this. I gave it this little image here. Let's see what it comes up with. I mean, it's really not making this very complicated.
It's a pretty good model.
It is a good model. Oh, there. That's pretty good, actually.
That's an eye.
And you got a second beak now, or hat, maybe? That's on the.
I don't even know what's going on with this.
Maybe that's the wing, actually, in the wrong spot. I bet you it's the beak and the wings pointing in the wrong direction.
Tell it to remove the alert when you lose, so you don't need to click OK every time.
Yeah, I can just hit the enter, though.
Oh, okay. Good.
Now we're getting some good crowdsourcing. Thanks, Adam. This looks amazing.
Okay, so while we're goofing off here, with our 65 participants, 60 if you take the stage.
Is there some other point here? Sorry.
Does anyone else have some questions that aren't Flappy Bird?
Do you see Cursor as a competitor? Someone asked before.
Well, I'm pretty certain that they don't see us as a competitor, but we would like them to see us as a competitor, and we're working hard for that. So yeah, we do see them as a competitor. What do you say, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, the way I view this stuff is like, I think those of us who are in the Discord, like, we can see all the things happening every day. You know, every day something crazy is happening. AI is getting way better. It's a huge rat race. I think when you talk to people who work jobs and don't spend all day on Discord, and you ask them how much they use AI, their answers are usually like, I hit tab sometimes in Copilot. You know, and I think that those people are starting to say like Cursor now, though. You know, like, hey, I use Cursor a little bit. The tab complete is amazing, which is true. It is, but I don't know. To me, I think the main thing, and like the extent I think Cursor's a competitor, it's more. It just seems like the opportunity is to help everyone kind of realize AI for helping them do their coding jobs, and it just seems like we're so far away from that. But that said, of the people, you know, maybe like 10 out of 100 people say Cursor now. I don't know how many out of 100 say Roo Code, you know, so just trying to get to the point where I think it's great, completely changed the way I program, the way I work. I think there's like still a gap to get to more people realizing that. So I don't know. There's a big pie though to cut into. I don't think anyone's even really competitors. I mean, God knows we all copy each other on everything we do. You know, I think it's more just like, how do you get in touch with the right people? Not even the right people. Like, you talk to companies, they all know they need to do better too. You know, every company's like, oh, everybody else has figured this out and we haven't. But to me, I'm just pretty interested in like, what are the structural things that make it harder for people? You know, is it money? Is it focus? Is it the way we have our jobs set up? I don't know, but I feel really passionate about it. Like, again, for me, it's completely rejuvenated my excitement for programming and building stuff, and I just think there's a room to do that for a lot more people, and that's the impact that I'm excited about. And you know, I do think it focuses us. So Cursor makes such a good product that I think just viewing them as like a friendly competitor and looking at like all the things we could do better to meet the level they're at on a lot of the UX stuff. And I think to the extent that we can kind of feel pride in the places where I think we are better, like on the agent stuff, you know, to me, it's like what I want us to be focused on versus getting into like with some of the smaller, you know, teams. Like I just view them all as like, we're all collaborating, trying to figure this problem out. So that said, a little, you know, back and forth on Twitter is always fun too. You know, just got to keep people interested. So.
Yeah. I like that perspective a lot, honestly. I would say, your approach is good because there are people that get so hung up on the competition that they're always chasing rather than looking ahead, and that could be like quite detrimental to the product. So I think the fact that you guys have like orchestrator mode before everyone else, like it's clear to me you guys are both taking and learning from others, but also kind of paving the path to at the same time, which I think is just kind of the way it should be. That's awesome.
What I do find interesting is Cursor. Great, they're big. They made a splash. They're holding on to a good chunk of the existing users. The Windsurf acquisition by OpenAI, I've seen it hasn't made the the splash that I would have expected Windsurf to make. Pun sort of intended. I just don't hear them being talked about, and I know that I sometimes can get stuck in the echo chamber that is Reddit or Twitter or Discord or whatever. But I would think that some of that would make it in to communities like the ChatGPT coding, and people just don't talk about Windsurf very much. I have it. I don't use it a lot. What are your thoughts on that, if any of you have given that a try recently?
I mean, I run constant evals across all the agents, and Windsurf is interesting to me. And to be fully transparent, I've talked to the folks there quite a bit too. And I don't think they see themselves as like a front runner in like AI coding in general. I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to build a solid, like enterprise focused solution. And their whole push with the SWE models they put out, I think, are interesting. I actually was expecting those models to actually come out for use elsewhere. And I think part of the valuation that OpenAI gave it was because of those custom models they built. So I don't know. It's from a coding, like a day-to-day coding thing, I know no one in any of my professional network that uses Windsurf on a daily basis. But yet, and I mean, Cursor for sure, Roo Code for sure, Claude Code for sure, but nobody knows Windsurf. And I feel like that's got to be like a low. I kind of wonder if it's like the professionals haven't moved to Windsurf, unless maybe you're like a school wage student or you're in college or something. $15 a month, you just can't beat that for what they offer. So it's kind of like a value play currently. And then they have the enterprise arm, which I'd be curious to see how that's going for them, to be honest.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, I used Windsurf before Cursor. I hadn't even heard of Cursor. I don't know how I stumbled across Windsurf. And I really did like it for what it did. I found it very useful. And I guess then Klein did its thing, and then we started Roo Code. And so I haven't touched it much. I just use it as an IDE that doesn't get in the way, because I do my main development in VS Code, so I use the Windsurf IDE for some of my things that I don't want my settings from Roo Code to get in the way. I have basically different Roo Code configurations. And since there's so many global settings, I just use it as a silo, and I don't use any of the Windsurf settings or agentic coding ability. So I think I really should give it a try with their latest tools, because I don't know, I think they've been pushing pretty hard. Giving it a fair review would not harm.
While we're talking about these different agents, I do have a question that was asked earlier. So the question asked was, I want to ask if you guys have experience starting a project in one agentic coder and then moving into another. And are there any such use cases where you find one coding agent like Roo better for certain tasks versus Claude Code or any other agent? And if you've found a workflow that allows you to use Roo and those different agents side by side?
I mean, I think that's a good question. Do you guys have any thoughts on that before I jump in and take up all the oxygen?
I've used Windsurf from where they were called Codium.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first agent I used, and then slowly moved into Cursor and then back to Roo. So far, I've only used Roo because I find it very, very capable with long running tasks. Basically, Cursor is good for quick. Well, that's what I've experienced. Of course, it's quick with a quick task. Quick change, not something that you want to keep going and going and going, because eventually the model forgets stuff that you told it. I found that Roo is pretty good at keeping a good track of what it's doing and continuing working on that. So I don't have much experience with using one agent to, implement something and then switching to another. I have more experience using a model with, for example, Orchestrator, and then using other models, cheaper models, faster models to do other tasks. So that's my opinion on that.
Adam, what thoughts?
Yeah, so I think it highly depends on your knowledge of the code base. So I always look at it as, do you know how when you start a new job and you go into a code base and they're like, hey, go work on this ticket, you immediately start searching and trying to figure out everything. If you know the code base really well, switching from AI agent to AI agent, very easy. If you don't, and you've built up a lot of like rules and like custom things that are particular to that particular AI agent, it can be very hard. For me, I'm in a kind of a luxurious point right now where I basically know what I want to do. I kind of know where it needs to be done. So going from agent to agent, very light of a lift for me. And I will say, I'm not as big of a fan of these long running conversations. I actually like, I like, build a plan, execute it. If that worked or didn't, a lot of times I'll even clear my context at that point and kind of then incrementally like work through stuff and have that running. So, but I will say like Roo Code does do a great job, and I use it quite consistently when I'm doing major refactors. Because a lot of times refactors need to go across a larger part of the repository where you've got multiple files you've got to work through. So what I found, my best thing is different tools for different use cases. So Roo Code is like, I'll use it to ideate, look through like certain large files, help me break it apart, come up with a plan for that. And then when it's surgical stuff, I may use another agent. When I just want to ask questions about a code base, I might use another agent for that, for example.
I used to use Cursor primarily, or Tray, to ask questions about the Roo code base. But since we implemented indexing, I've found Roo does a pretty fabulous job in ask mode.
Yeah, Roo's great with codebase indexing on. I have it turned on for all of mine. So ideating with it is awesome. There are some other context engines out there. I don't know what magic they work, but one of the problems that you run into with like RAG-based approach or even semantic search and all that is it still can be slower to actually get to an answer versus some of the other solutions out there. And I know like over time, open source is going to get to that point. Yeah. So if you're really quickly wanting to ideate, like say you open up the Roo Code repository or the repo for the first time, and you just want to be like, hey, I want to understand how Orchestrator is working. You could send that to one agent, and it's going to go through and kind of find all this stuff and put it together. But there's some out there that you index it with their server, like you actually like send it all up to the cloud, which is debatable on if people want to do that long term. And they've got like systems in place that can give you like incredibly quick answers. So it's like that trade-off you've got to kind of weigh too.
No, that's interesting. No, that's an interesting point. Absolutely.
Yeah, the one direction that I've been going in. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Lisa.
Yeah, so if you talk about these server-based indexing approaches, I wonder how would enterprise even think about it, because sometimes they would like to keep this software as private as they can. So
100%, I worry about that too. Yep.
Sorry. Yeah, I think that's one. Sorry, just a point on that. I think that enterprise. I mean, the nice part about using I don't even know how to pronounce it. Quadrant, is that how you say it?
Quadrant is what I say. But
yeah, interesting. It seems there's some missing letters there. But anyway, I mean, the nice part is you can that one's really easy to run locally, right? And with our configuration, you can point it at a local device. So I think with that one, it's like we actually are set up for enterprise. I think the main thing is just like enforcing the usage of it. So a whole different discussion. Maybe we can do a pod on Roo Code Cloud at some point. But that's part of what we're trying to do there is to kind of the extension lets you do a ton of stuff, and that actually like to enable this in enterprise, we need to like control more, make it so they can be more compliant. So that's kind of where we go. But I think part of it is just having the flexibility to support use cases like that and get the benefit while still, working within policies. So,
100%. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the big benefit you guys have from your code-based indexing. It's the fact that I don't have to send it to another server. I could do all my embeddings locally. I could even use a local model if I wanted to actually ask questions about it. I think that's a huge benefit. I do worry about the enterprise case having issues with people syncing code or even embeddings. It's kind of a gray area, but like Cursor, for example, syncs embeddings to their cloud to do some of the search. Where like some will actually sync the actual code base. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and I don't think being open source or being local is an argument against being fast or having a quick answer. I think 100%. Indexing was mostly made by me when in my free time. We're trying now to actually make it better, more stable, and faster. Also, better at answering stuff. Right now, it's pretty good, but it could be much, much better at actually getting relevant results to the model. So I believe it can be much better than it is. We're trying to get it there. And it doesn't matter if you're using, Quadrant in the cloud or any other service. If you use a local, for example, the Nomic model from Olama is actually pretty good. It's I think it's on par with Small from OpenAI, Small 3. So you can use a no local setup, and it's gonna get you pretty good results. We're trying to get it better.
You know what would be an interesting test with the code-based indexing you've built? I haven't tried this yet. Is take a giant public source, like open source, like repository, and try indexing it, because some of the bigger names out there, they actually fall over at about 100,000 files. I wonder like what the limit is for the version you've built. Like
We do have a limit. Yeah, I
know
set a
what it is
limit.
off the top of your head?
Yes, it is. I think it is. Well, it is probably 5K files. It's
Okay,
not as
gotcha.
big. Mainly, the main concern that I had when making indexing was how long it takes to index a whole code base. So right now, it doesn't. I don't think it matters too much. Looking back into it, if you leave code base indexing running and it takes 10 minutes to index 100,000 files, I don't think it's that big
Don't
of a
matter.
deal. But my main concern was that how long it takes to index a code base, and also the fact that, for example, OpenAI limits how many tokens you can send per minute. So I imagine like some Cursor has much higher limits on what you can send per minute. If you use your own key with OpenAI, it's like 10 million tokens per minute. And while testing, we generate embeddings on batches. At some point, I was testing, and you can exceed the limit pretty quickly. So indexing can go much faster if you have a higher rate limit with OpenAI, for example. So that was the concern with indexing for normal users, hitting the limit, waiting too long for the whole code base to index. So those were the limitations that we run into.
Okay, we have Flappy Birds.
Hey, Flappy Tomato.
Okay.
Is that the city? Is that the city backdrop off over to the left side there? They tried to do like a
the city backdrop. I can't.
Did that
I can't
come
get
out of the
first
Did that
one.
come out of the bird? That's what I'm wondering.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, the city
But
backdrop.
that's pretty good.
Looks like. Yeah. Well. Okay.
That's
well.
pretty good.
That's funny.
Drop needs to be moved over. It's only on the left. Okay. I think we made it, guys. So I guess Google reigns supreme here. For cheap
Yeah,
models. How
talking
much have
about
I
Google.
spent? This cost me
makes sense,
43
right?
cents. And I was
I was gonna
not
say
being
50 cents.
efficient.
Yeah.
Sorry,
There's
what were you
actually a
saying?
Google model for embedding. There's actually a Google model for embedding that's free. Oh my god. That is no, yeah. But anyways, there's a Google model for free that you can get for embeddings. It's text embedding 004, and it's I think 1,500 requests a minute that you get for free, which is quite decent for most of the people if they want to go that way. So
Interesting. I didn't know that
that's how
existed.
Yeah, it's
That's
not.
cool.
It's about half the speed is what I get out of OpenAI, but easy to set up and it
Interesting.
works pretty quick. We can link it in the video for people wanting to use a free embedding model.
Oh yeah,
There we
can
go.
expect indexing to get better soon because we're working on it. Faster, better results. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be excited to see what you guys do there.
Well, we're hoping to get some stuff across the finish line this week, but it is a short week for America with Independence Day coming on Friday. So, yeah.
So are you going to celebrate for us up there in Canada?
Absolutely. 100%.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay. Let me see. I think we're almost done here. We have time for one last question. I saw a PR for something similar to Claude custom command. How would it be mixed with custom mode and Roo? I don't know what that question means. Does anyone else want to take that?
Is this related to the slash commands that we saw to get a workflow going with Roo? Maybe?
Well, that was the least climactic final question in the history of this podcast. Yes, slash command. Dan.
Yeah, we do have a pending PR for that. I think it's a draft right now. But if that completes, maybe I can take it so we can get it over the finish line. We can have that soon. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Adam, for joining us. Adam from GosuCoder. I really do appreciate it. And this has been your 13th episode of the Roo Code Office Hours. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you again next week.